Hey, good morning. This is a video about the new moon in Pisces, mutable water sign of the fishes on Thursday, February 27th. And yes, we have eclipses in March and in September this year, but this moon is extremely powerful, not only because of the lineup of planets that we will see on the 28th, because that's definitely for sure. And you can see this lineup with the sun, the moon, Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, Venus, Uranus, and Mars. And they'll be in different parts of the sky, obviously. But and you'll need binoculars for the outer planets of Uranus and Neptune. But this one is powerful if we're talking about our personal egocentric development as it intersects with our soulful involution, how we grace our bodies, our experiences with divinity and cosmic attributes of kindness and love and compassion. And, you can't really talk about Pisces or Pisces season without sounding like an imam, a reverend, a crone, a shaman, priest, all of that. And this one is certainly that, all of the above. Yeah, because this one has, that sweet spot between Mars going direct on the 23rd and then Venus going retrograde on the 1st of March. So we're in that, 6 or 7 days where the god of war or independent illusory self separation, egocentric separation, Mars, which by the way causes all the problems on the planet basically, or acts on the desire of disunification or separateness. And Venus melds or bring people together. And so Aries and Libra, Taurus and Scorpio, and Capricorn and Cancer. So 6 out of the 12 signs. That's how, come on, guys, we're all 12 of them in varying degrees. Sort of like what my ethics professor, Nesbaum, said to me in undergrad. Oh man, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he would say there are no experts, just varying degrees of ignorance. So yes, you are learning to be an expert in your sun sign, but you're not one. And then we're all 12 signs in varying degrees. We have a certain skill set. And when the ego surrenders, hello, Mars in Cancer, sensitive and defensive, oh God, just get over yourself. And it has been there, got off and on since, September of last year. And he will be there for another 6 or so weeks. Hello, Ramadan, starting on Saturday, the 28th. And then Lent follows on March the 4th. So these religions are teaching us, some form of temperance, right? Yeah. All right, let's take that in too. And so Venus goes retrograde on the on March the 1st. So this sweet spot between Mars and Venus affects all of us in varying degrees. Of course, the Aries and the Scorpios have been kind of low cotton, as my grandfather would say, since December the 6th. And but it also indicates that those signs that complement or that twin, these other signs, so the Taurus and Libra, have to work out their issues of self protection and self direction in their relationships. And then Capricorn is there where Mars is exalted or gets its power from, which is kind of easy to see if you just know that Capricorn is about structure and discipline. And Mars definitely needs that, but then we also need to put limitations upon our limitation. But this particular new moon in Pisces is squaring big picture Jupiter. So what could become confidence can easily become arrogance, entitlement, overconfidence. And since it's in water and air, it can be like in that Deadpool movie, that a lie is just an aspirational wish, right, in the future. So yeah, an aspirational wish. That's not really a lie. So it's that ability to rationalize or to shape your reality based on your unique perception or unique relationship to your varying environments. And with Mercury being in Pisces and Jupiter being in Gemini, they can exist in each other's signs or in our raw material. we would call it the nourishing of one's wholeness, the feeding of one's completion, because Gemini is the nourishment or nourishing, the food pillar. And then Pisces is the wholeness, the perfection, the completion pillar. And so it's that ability to understand the evolution and by association, the involution or the downloading of divinity. Yeah, lots going on. And then with Venus almost in retrograde from March 1st to April 12th, she's in Aries. She'll move back into Pisces at the end of March and will be there for about 4 weeks. And then Mercury goes retrograde on March 15th in Aries. It moves back in to Pisces, I think April 3rd or 4th. These dates, you can direct message me or email, put it in the comments if you want the dates to be more precise. But just know the Aries, Pisces, Mercury, thought, mind, communication slow down. And then Venus, how we value ourselves, that somatic physical experience. But her evening star phase, which ends on March 22nd, and began on June 5th, 6th of 2024. The evening star is Venus and her lover, her sunset. How was your day? Let's reflect on our day together. That aspirational, idealistic side of Venus. And with her pausing in the warrior sign of Aries to go back into the priestly, compassionate sign. Well, Pisces has some warring tendencies too. Just because they're not on the front line ready to jump on the grenade or lead the brigade doesn't mean that Pisces has any less passion. It's just distributed differently. But I can make a cogent argument as a cosmic lawyer over here that Pisces war can actually sometimes be more insidious because Neptune has the war on multiple factions. It has the scout, it has the diplomat, it has the spy, it has the overarching ideals. You've heard onward Christian soldiers, the Knights Templar, and just think of the Neptunian story of the South and the lost cause. So Neptune has an ability to draw our individual egos, to dissolve those egos, boundaries, and we get caught up in, going off to war, proverbially speaking. Whereas Aries is just like, yeah, I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna get in your face, right? And so, but they both are learning, starting with Neptune at his last degrees of Pisces, to go into Aries on March the 30th. Another reason why this new moon is so powerful, because as Neptune finishes up his 14-year trek, he spends 14 years in each sign. So we can go back to 2011, 12, 13, as he was going back and forth between Aquarius and Pisces. But to stay in 2012, these last, you know, 12 years or so, we've had multiple dimensional reality shifts, fake media, misinformation, just AI bots, and just a lot of malfeasance in the interwebs, right? But it all comes down to thinking poor, believing in the separateness that our egos get attached to. And if you haven't done some really profound inner work with Mars being in retrograde from December 6th until February 23rd, these next couple months, as Mars retraced his steps from his retrograde cycle until about the 1st of May, you can just fully anticipate meeting what you didn't will deal with inside in the outer world. And Venus will just emphasize that in her retrograde cycle as well. Yeah, and then Saturn is ending up his latter track through Pisces, and so until May 24th. So there is this new moon is a pause. It is a let's confront our fears and our anxieties. And almost all of fears and anxiety begins with the mistaken belief that you're not connected to the cosmos in the first place, to the Tao. I've had the good fortune of really working with and investigating the shift and transformation of fiat money and cryptocurrency and the communities that people create, the transparency it needs. Now, wherever you think about it, get into the intention behind the energetic shifts. We're moving into a transparent Aquarius age. One dude says you're in the right place. He's giving all this crypto knowledge on TikTok and whatever, and I forget his name right now, but he says you're in the right place. And I've only seen two, maybe three videos of his, but in each one that I've seen at least, he says you're in the right place. And that's an allusion to the high priestess. The high priestess, she sits in between two pillars. One pillar is judgment and severity, real Saturnian and Martian. I'm judging you because I see separate intention. I want to understand where your ego is coming from, and albeit how attached you are to it. Then the other pillar is the pillar of mercy and compassion, more Neptunian and Jupiter like. But ultimately, both of these pillars sit on the side of the high priestess, but behind her is the pillar of equilibrium, or within her is the pillar of equilibrium. However you want to see it, because it's the high priestess, the Lord, and she's mysterious just from Jump Street. you know, what's behind the sky? How do spiders, the web? I mean, just think about those beautiful mysteries. And with the high priestess as a motivating force on this new moon in Pisces, just noted the Venus retrograde for the 40 days, Lent, 40 days, Moses and 40 years. I mean, so that 40 energy is a number. 4, structure, and 0 is the divinity, the integration of the male and female energies and how power uses us to complete things in spiritual, holistic forms. The 0 and the Fool, right? So this new moon is carrying an alignment, beautiful alignment of this sun and moon in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, Mars in Cancer, and Vesta. Focus. Vesta takes the energy of Venus, that Venus, is relational and mating oriented. Nothing is important as an idea that's communicated and shared. Venus is about having the worth to share the love, right? But Vesta looks at that and goes like, oh, I'll determine when I'm going to share my love, right? So Vesta, lending her name or getting the Vestal Virgins, it's that internal fire, that heart that has that manages when to be with someone and when not. Now, granted, the Catholic Church, a number of religions have split the body and the spirit. Red tent, priests not having sex, and imams. Oh, and just the way that they project on the queer people and trans people and all of that. But that artificial split is where the animal part of us is wounded, right? And so Vesta in Scorpio basically says, let's go and light some internal fire to that darkness, to that shadow self, basically, and recognize how we can return to our domain where we feel like we belong. And with Juno and Sagittarius squaring Ceres, because realize if we use Ceres and Pluto as dwarf planets, I don't consider them, but my frustration has been in almost 20 years ago when they demoted Pluto, they didn't elevate Ceres. I mean, we didn't talk about her because they're both dwarf planets. And, Pluto snatched Ceres' daughter to the underworld. She went on strike. We had got winter, and Stephanie had to stay in the underworld. You get all of that. But the point is that the fact that Juno, how we commit, is at odds with Ceres, our midwife, to what really wounds us from incredible loss. And that's sitting up there with right in front of that moon and sun, new beginning. So this is about how we feed our souls. Back to that nourishing principle of our raw material, how we feed those around us. And since Ceres became a nanny, mythologically speaking, how do we see everyone we meet as someone's child? Yeah. I know communities of color have been doing that. I have a number of stories in my community, and even historically, around, Black women and Black families taking in children because our families were separated with slavery. So there was this, God bless the child who has his own, but also, to each his own and all of those things. But it was also, bringing people in and giving that merciful, compassionate pillar, Ceres and Pisces. And the United States has Ceres in Pisces, the 1776 chart, and it's stationary. And if you think about Ceres as Nanny, Mammy, Aunt Jemima, the 688, that beautiful, Kerry Washington movie, those women that went overseas in World War II to get the mail correct for the soldiers so we can build up morale. How much is morale building, the under the purview of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces? Hmm. And that's why when you separate yourself out and not see your inclusion with all 12 signs, it's like, amputating parts of your soul, so to speak. So, where does this all lead? Inwardly? Yeah. To go where no person has gone before. Yeah, I'm a Trekkie for sure. But we go out into outer space. But we're kind of stuck on this planet so far. Until we get along with each other, we're going to stay ego or geocentric, not galactically centered. Because the whole truth, not that all religions are one, yeah, they're connected. That's a half truth. Yep, I said it. It's a half truth because they're all geocentric. Yeah, but when they get out of that ego geocentricity and start to see themselves as Earth is just one of the many creations in the galaxy, changes the way we treat each other. Okay, I, I've gone a little bit longer than I intended, but I just want to reiterate how important this new moon is to set up the lunar eclipse in mid-March, and then the solar eclipse on March 27th, somewhere in there. And I'll get to that as it's time to get to that. But just know that as the nodal axis of karma has moved in January from Aries to the North Node in Pisces, imagine that these next 14, 15 months are about us looking back, not longingly like Lot's wife, not about the Pisces age and the separation and the hierarchy and the segregation integration. I mean, I was just watching a video around Trevor Noah bringing up the question of segregation and integration. He's a Pisces, and I know from research that Brown and v. Board, from having a law professor who her thesis with desegregation was as a Cold War imperative, that we were embarrassed on the world stage as Americans in the 50s. And what those people, those teachers and educators and citizens wanted in Topeka was equal resources because we hadn't ever delivered on the Plessy versus Ferguson's separate birth equal. But the North Node in Pisces is about us fundamentally realizing that there's a Maya and an illusion that we're separate in the first place. So, how would you make decisions based on one world, one inclusive, unified soul? Okay, Bob Marley, one love, ego, soul. And I believe that's a hashtag that came to me. One love, ego, soul. And then Tavish in Our Raw Material was ego, soul balance, and soul, ego balance. I'll leave you at that, folks. Thanks for listening, and all truth is inside. Just take the time to access it.